Jefferson County Court at Law number 2 is now in session. First case is cause number M334236. Case is styled the state of Texas versus Jerome Anthony Baines Jr. Mr. Baines, is that your full name?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Baines, would you please raise your right hand? Mr. Baines, do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Baines, you may put your hand down. How are you doing, Mr. Baines? I'm doing fine. Thanks for asking, Mr. Baines. You're represented in your case by your attorney, Thomas Burbank. Attorney Burbank, how are you doing? Mr. Burbank, do you waive a record in Mr. Baines' case?
We do.
And the state is represented in this case by Attorney Colby Hawkpower. Attorney Hawkpower, how are you doing?
Good job.
Mr. Baines, I have before me a document that is titled Information. This information was filed by the Jefferson County District Attorney's Office. In this information, it alleges that you, Jerome Anthony Baines Jr., on or about August 13 of 2022, while you were in Jefferson County, Texas, that you committed the Class A misdemeanor offense of evading arrest, detention. Mr. Baines, do you understand what you have been charged with? And to this charge, Mr. Baines, how do you plead? Guilty, not guilty, or no contest? Now, are you pleading no contest freely and voluntarily?
Yes, sir.
And are you pleading no contest because you do not wish to fight or contest the charges? Mr. Baines, I also have before me a document that is titled Misdemeanor Plea Admonishments. Do you recognize this document? On page 2 of this same document, there are two sets of initials. One set is your attorney initials and the other set is JAB. What I assume are your initials. Next to a line that's next to a box that is checked, nolo contendere, which means no contest. Would you place your initials on this document, JAB?
Yes.
On page 3 of the same document, there's a signature above the line that's titled Defendant. Is this your signature?
Yes, sir.
On the next document that's titled Trial Court Certification of Defendant's Right of Appeal, do you recognize this document?
Yes, sir.
And is this your signature on the line that's titled Defendant?
Yes, sir.
There are two boxes that are checked at the top of this document. The first box that's checked states that this is a plea bargain case and you have no right of appeal. Do you understand that statement?
Yes, sir.
The second box that's checked states that you are waiving your right to an appeal, which means you're giving up your right to an appeal. Do you understand that statement? I also have a document here that is titled Discovery Certification. Do you recognize this document?
Yes, sir.
And is this your signature on the line that's titled Defendant?
Yes, sir.
Now, Mr. Baines, before you signed and initialed all of these documents that I just showed, did your attorney go over these documents with you?
Yes, sir.
And did you read and understand everything in these documents?
Yes, sir.
And is everything in these documents true and correct
Yes, sir.
to the best of your knowledge? Mr. Baines, are you a citizen of the United States?
Yes, sir.
State, I have before me State's Exhibit 1, the misdemeanor plea admonishment, and State's Exhibit 2, the proper cause affidavit, which is in the court's file. State, would you like to offer State's Exhibits 1 and 2?
State would.
Any objections?
No objection, states 1 and 2.
No objection, State's Exhibits 1 and 2 are admitted. Mr. Burbank, you've advised and counseled Mr. Baines. Is there any evidence that he is currently mentally incompetent to stand trial?
No.
Mr. Baines, your attorney, Mr. Burbank, has advised and counseled you. Are you satisfied with his representation?
Yes, sir.
Has he provided full, effective, and competent legal representation?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Baines, I will accept your plea of no contest. I will find that you are mentally competent to stand trial. I will also find that your plea and waivers were freely and voluntarily given. And I will also find that there is sufficient evidence to find you guilty beyond a reasonable doubt. State, do we have a plea bargain agreement?
We do, Your Honor.
And what is that agreement?
In exchange for a plea of guilty or no contest, state agreed to recommend 160 days in Jefferson County Jail and court costs. But it has credit for 160 days. We ask to be a time served judgment and tax retirement court costs.
Mr. Banks, the state is offering that you serve 160 days in the Jefferson County Jail. However, you will not be required to serve any more time in the Jefferson County Jail because you've already served 160 days in the Jefferson County Jail on this case. Therefore, you'll be given credit for the time that you have already served. The court cost in this case is $327, but you will not be required to pay the $327 court cost because the time that you have spent in jail is already paid it off. Therefore, the court cost will be taxed and retired. Mr. Baines, do you understand the state's offer?
Yes, sir.
And do you think that the state's offer in your case is fair and just?
Yes, sir.
And do you accept the state's offer?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Baines, I'll follow the plea bargain agreement that you have entered into with the state. Now, Mr. Baines, you're gonna stand in front of our court clerk. She's to my immediate right. You're gonna follow her directions. Once you finish following her directions, you follow the bailiff, and you have a blessed day. And Mr. Burbank, you're free to go. You have a blessed day as well.
Thank you, Your Honor, Mayor. Please. I will see if I can.
Hi, Mr. Baines.
The Jefferson County Court at law number 2 is back in session. The court is in session and calls number 23CC-CR0030. Case is styled the state of Texas versus Kenneth Bellard. Mr. Bellard, is that your full name?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Bellard, would you please raise your right hand? Mr. Bellard, do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Bellard, you may put your hand down. How are you doing, Mr. Bellard?
Sir,
How are you doing?
I'm blessed, sir.
Okay, can't be being better than being blessed. Now, Mr. Bellard, you're represented in your case by Attorney John Macy. Attorney Macy, how are you doing?
I'm fine, Your Honor.
Mr. Macy, do you waive a record in Mr. Bellard's case?
Yes, Your Honor.
Mr. Bellard, I have before me a document that is titled information. This information alleges that you, Kenneth Bellard, on or about January 7th of 2023, while you were in Jefferson County, Texas, that you committed the Class A misdemeanor offense of resisting arrest, search, transportation. Mr. Bellard, do you understand what you have been charged with?
Yes, sir.
And to this charge, Mr. Bellard, how do you plead? Guilty, not guilty, or no contest?
No contact.
Are you pleading no contest freely and voluntarily?
Yes, sir.
And are you pleading no contest because you do not wish to fight or contest the charges?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Bellard, I have before me a document that is titled misdemeanor plea admonishment. This document is also labeled as State's Exhibit Number 1. Do you recognize this document?
Yes, sir.
On page 2 of this same document, Mr. Bellard, there are a set of initials, KB, that are written on a line next to a box that's checked nolo contendere, which means no contest. Mr. Bellard, did you place your initials on this document?
Sir, that is my signature.
Oh, your initials.
My initial.
And on page 3 of the same document, there's a signature above the line that is titled defendant. Is this your signature?
Yes, sir.
On the next document that's titled trial court certification is defendant's right of appeal. Do you recognize this document?
Yes, sir.
And is this your signature on the line that's titled
Yes,
defendant?
sir.
There are 2 boxes that are checked at the top of this document. The first box that's checked states that this is a plea bargain case and you have no right of appeal. Do you understand that statement?
Yes, sir.
The second box that's checked is next to a statement that states you're waiving your right to an appeal, which means you're giving up your right to an appeal. Do you understand that statement?
Yes, sir.
You have that discovery.
Just have this.
Okay.
We'll get the other one.
Okay, now, Mr. Bellard, I also have a document before me that is titled Discovery Certification. Do you recognize this document?
Yes, sir.
And is this your signature on the line that's
Yes,
titled
it is,
defendant?
sir.
Now, Mr. Bellard, before you signed and initialed all of these documents, did your attorney go over these documents with you?
Yes, sir.
And did you read and understand everything that your attorney went over?
Yes, sir.
And is everything in these documents true and correct,
Yes, sir.
to the best of your knowledge?
Yes, sir.
Now, Mr. Bellard, are you a U.S. citizen?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Bellard, well, now state. I have before me State's Exhibit Number 1, the misdemeanor plea admonishment, and State's Exhibit Number 2, the probable cause affidavit. State, would you like to offer State's Exhibits 1 and 2?
Yes, Your Honor.
Any objections?
No objection, Your Honor.
No objection. State's Exhibit 1 and 2 are admitted into evidence. Mr. Macy, you've advised and counseled Mr. Bellard. Is there any evidence that he is currently mentally incompetent to stand trial?
No, Your Honor.
Mr. Bellard, your attorney, Mr. Macy, has advised and counseled you. Are you satisfied with his representation?
Yes, sir.
Has he provided full, effective, and competent legal representation?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Bellard, I will accept your plea of no contest. I will find that you are mentally competent to stand trial. I will also find that your plea and waivers were freely and voluntarily given. And I'll also find that there is sufficient evidence to find you guilty beyond a reasonable doubt. State, do we have a plea bargain agreement?
Yes, Your Honor.
And what is that agreement?
In exchange for a plea, guilty of a contest, state agreed to recommend you.
This court calls, like it says 0.
Yeah, it's gonna show 0 until I add them in there.
Yeah.
I actually have to call about that.
50 days in jail, court calls, and he's got 50 days credit. This will be a time served, and we ask the tax and retirement.
Okay, now, Mr. Bellard, the state is offering that you serve 50 days in the Jefferson County Jail. However, You would not have to serve any more time in the Jefferson County Jail because you have already served 50 days in Jefferson County Jail on this case. The court costs in this case, you would not be required to pay the court costs because the time that you have spent in jail has already paid the court costs off. Therefore, the court costs will be taxed and retired. Ms. Ballard, do you understand the state's offer?
Yes, sir.
And do you think that the state's offer in your case is fair and just?
Yes, sir.
And do you accept the state's offer?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Ballard, I'll follow the plea bargaining agreement that you have entered into with the state. Now, Mr. Ballard, our court clerk is going to draft up a judgment. You need to have him take a seat.
Yes, have a seat.
Okay, just have a seat, and when she call your name, you're gonna go in front of her window and follow her directions. Once you finish following her directions, then you'll follow the bailiff. Okay, let's have a seat. Okay, let's see. This is cause number M326424. Case of style of state of Texas versus Brenda Louise Whittington. Ms. Whittington, is that your full name?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Whittington, would you please raise your right hand? Ms. Whittington, do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth to help you God? Ms. Whittington, you may put your hand down. How are you doing, Ms. Whittington?
I'm great.
That's good. Ms. Whittington, you're represented in your case by your attorney, Attorney John Macy. Attorney Macy, do you waive a record in Ms. Whittington's case?
Yes, Your Honor.
Ms. Whittington, I have before me a document that is titled Information. This information was filed by the Jefferson County District Attorney's Office. In this information, it alleges that you, Brenda Louise Whittington, on or about March 15, 2020, while you were in Jefferson County, Texas, operating a motor vehicle in a public place, that you committed the Class A misdemeanor offense of driving while intoxicated with an alcohol concentration level of 0.15 or more. Ms. Whittington, do you understand what you have been charged with?
Yes, sir.
And to discharge Ms. Whittington, how do you plead? Guilty, not guilty, or no contest? Now, are you pleading no contest freely and voluntarily? And are you pleading no contest because you do not wish to fight or contest the charges? Okay, Ms. Whittington, I have before me a document that is titled misdemeanor plea admonishments. Ms. Whittington, do you recognize this document?
Yes.
Yeah, show this to her.
I did earlier, I guess it did.
Okay, you
I
reckon?
didn't see that one.
Okay, let's see if she can. You recognize that document?
That was the type in.
Yes, sir.
Okay, now, on page 2 of this same document, there are a set of initials, BW,
Yes.
on a line next to a box that's checked nolo contendere, which means no contest. Did you place your initials BW on this document? On page 3 of this same document, there is a signature above the line that is titled defendant. Is this your signature?
Yes, sir.
On the next document that's titled trial court certification of defendant's right of appeal, do you recognize this document?
Yes, sir.
And is this your signature above the line that's titled defendant?
Yes, sir.
At the top of this document, there are 2 boxes that's checked. The first box that's checked states that this is a plea bargain case and you have no right of appeal. Do you understand that statement?
Yes, sir.
The second box that's checked states that you are waiving your right to an appeal, which means you are giving up your right to an appeal. Do you understand that statement?
Yes, sir.
Also, you have that discovery certification.
$270.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
I also have another document, Ms. Whittington, that is titled Discovery Certification. Do you recognize this document?
Yes, sir.
And is this your signature on the line that is titled Defendant?
Yes, sir.
Now, Ms. Whittington, before you signed and initialed all of these documents that I have just mentioned to you, did your attorney, Mr. Macy, go over these documents with you?
Yes, sir.
And did you read and understand everything that Mr. Macy went over?
Yes, sir.
And is everything in these documents true and correct to the best of your knowledge?
Correct, to the best of my knowledge.
Ms. Whittington, are you a citizen of the United States?
Yes, sir.
State, I have before me states exhibits number 1, the misdemeanor plea admonishment, and states exhibit number 2, the probable cause affidavit, which is in the court's file. State, would you like to offer states exhibits 1 and 2?
Yes, Your Honor.
Any objections?
No objection, Your Honor.
No objection. States exhibits 1 and 2 are admitted into evidence. Mr. Macy, you advise and counsel Ms. Whittington, is there any evidence that she is currently mentally incompetent to stand trial?
No, Your Honor.
And Ms. Whittington, your attorney, Mr. Macy, has advised and counseled you. Are you satisfied with his representation?
Yes, sir.
Has he provided full, effective, and competent legal representation?
Yes, sir.
Ms. Whittington, I will accept your plea of no contest. I will find that you are mentally competent to stand trial. I will also find that your plea and waivers were freely and voluntarily given. And I will also find that there is sufficient evidence to find you guilty beyond a reasonable doubt. State, do we have a plea bargain agreement?
We do, Your Honor.
And what is that agreement?
In exchange for a plea of guilty or no contest, state's agreed to recommend 30 days in jail, and court costs. Believe that the defendant has 12 days in credit at this point.
Okay. Ms. Whittington, the state is offering that you serve 30 days in the Jefferson County Jail. You will be given credit for the 12 days that you have already served in this case. The 12 days will go toward the 30 days. The court costs in this case, Ms. Whittington, is $502. Ms. Whittington, Will you be able to pay the $502?
Today?
Yes. Okay, now, Ms. Whittington, I have before me, hold on a minute, here we go. Okay. Now, Ms. Whittington, I have before me a document that is titled Affidavit of Indigence. Now pursuant to Article 1.24 Texas Code of Criminal Procedure, all trials and proceedings shall be public. However, pursuant to the case of Lilly versus State 365, Southwest 3rd, 321, the right to a public trial is not absolute and may be outweighed by other competing interests, such as security, or it could be the non-disclosure of public information. Now, Mr. Macy, there's some financial information some information on this affidavit of indigence that I have before me that has Ms. Whittington's name on it. That may be some information that you may not want to be disclosed to the public. Are you asking the court to close this proceeding to the public?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay, so at this time, the court finds that the party seeking the closure has advanced an overriding interest that is likely to be prejudiced toward the defendant in that it will disclose non-public information. The closure is no broader than necessary to protect the defendant's interests. The court has considered other reasonable alternatives to closing this proceeding. The court finds that there is adequate information to support, or the findings are adequate to support the closing of this proceeding. So at this time, this hearing is going to be closed to the public. And Mr. Did you have